What's going on, everybody? We are live. It's another brand new episode of Liam Picks Fights, brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the simplest game in DFS. If you're not familiar, all the information you need is in the description box below. But what you need to know, it's the simplest game in DFS. You take two projections from MLB, NBA, UFC, PFL. They've got everything that you can imagine. You take two prop projections that you disagree with, could be over, could be under, and you play them together. You're off to the races, right? You want to go try it out. You want to give it a shot. You go use my promo code Liam. They're going to deposit match you 100% up to $100. And with that being said, guys, we're breaking down UFC Vegas 58 today on the show. It's headlined by an absolutely exceptional lightweight matchup. We have the former champion, Rafael dos Anjos. He's taking on the potential future of the division, Rafael Atman Fiziev, one of the best fighters in terms of stand-up striking that we've seen in the UFC in some time, was able to knock out fellow kickboxer Brad Riddell in his last fight. So a lot of reasons to be excited about both these fighters, and what should be a pretty low-key fight night may offer us some opportunities from a betting perspective. So you know that I brought along two of the sharpest guys I know to break down all the action with me. I got first and foremost, returning champion, king of the Nerfy. This man has been on a tear, and he continues to stack wins in multiple sports. So always happy to highlight his work. My man, Wizz Bets, welcome back to the program, brother. How are you?
Good for having me again. You are the top of the top, and I appreciate you, brother.
My man, appreciate the kind words. All of us good guys versus the bookies each and every week. Been dropping a ton of free plays, free winners for the people. So appreciate you. I've been rolling with them myself, but always happy to give you that spotlight and bring you on. And the same can be said of my man, Pepe, the returning champion. This guy kills it with me every time that we bring him on the air. And on top of that, he's from New York, so you know I like him. Pepe, how you doing, my brother?
Doing great, Liam. Happy to break down some fights with the hottest capper in town, bro. Like, your process is definitely on point. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Like, absolutely crushing it. And the same could be said for Wizz, man. I see what you're doing, man. And it's great. So I'm just happy to be here with you guys.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, my man. Truly kind words. And we don't always humble brag on the show, but we're going to hit a quick humble brag today, guys. I'm just going to say, I know that a lot of people make content, and I rock with a ton of them, right? I listen to everybody's show. I love it. If you make content in this space, I rock with you. But I know very few people could say they've given away over 100 units in terms of winning plays on a free show like this. That we can claim on this show. So if you guys haven't been telling a friend about the show, tell a friend about the show. If you're not liking the video, fuck you. If you're not subscribed to my channel, get subscribed to my channel. It's that simple. All right. We're coming here every week, trying to put you in a position to succeed, whether you rock with the plays, whether you fade the plays, always hoping that you're in a better position to make money based on the information that you get from the show. So with that out of the way, guys, let's break it down. Let's start like we normally do. We're going to start at the bottom of the card. And this is one that's already got some intrigue. We're going to have some disagreement on the panel. And this is why I bring along these sharp guys, right? I want to give you guys honest perspectives. I want to give you guys both sides of the argument here. And in this case, I know that me and my man Pepe are going to be on one side of this argument, and our very sharp friend Wizz is going to be on the other side here. So I think with that being said, it's a great fight to start with. Saidyokub Kakhramonov, he's going to be coming back here after really surprising me personally. I was expecting Tresean Jones to get the better of him. He was coming in on short notice. Tresean Jones, a fighter I tend to rate in this division. He's been an undervalued commodity over time, I think, as a betting commodity. And so I bet Tresean Jones is an underdog in that spot. And my eyes were open. Wow, this guy Saidyokub Kakhramonov, he could really fight. And he's taking on a talented prospect here, very well-regarded Ronnie Lawrence. But I'll be honest, I had a bet on Ronnie Lawrence inside the distance at plus 220 in his last fight. I wasn't very happy with how that ended up turning out. I thought that, number one, if you laid the money line there, I'm sure you were shitting your pants in round 3, respectfully. But if you went into that fight thinking that this should be a walkover, like I kind of did, I was like, I like Manny Martinez as much as the next guy, but he's really just a guy who's going to throw some power on the feet. I'm not sure what his ceiling is long-term in the division. I'm not sure how well-rounded his skill set is. He definitely looked a little better there than I expected. But for me, that led me to look at this as more of a dog or pass situation. You know, you got Ronnie Lawrence. He's going to come in as a favorite here once again, but he's a little bit older than Saidyokub here. I'm not sure that he's the same level of athlete that Saidyokub is. I think Saidyokub's probably a more athletic fighter. So from a technical standpoint, I think it should be relatively competitive. I think both these guys have something to offer. Ronnie Lawrence is certainly no slouch. I think most of what he brings to the table is pace. I think he's a very, very difficult pace fighter to deal with, but I think Saidyokub might be able to bring a similar pace to bear. I was really impressed. Trevin Jones, a lot of his fights have been won with late heroics. He had no late heroics to offer Saidyokub, right? He got completely melted in that fight from a cardiovascular standpoint. That, for me, was the impressive thing about Saidyokub. So could I see Saidyokub winning this late? I could. Could I see him winning it early? As a matter of fact, I can. So with that being said, I'm going to have to be on the underdog here, Saidyokub Kakhramonov. And I did play him once again by submission in this spot. I think he's going to attempt a lot of submissions. I think Ronnie is going to attempt a lot of takedowns in the spot and potentially put his head in the hole. Saidyokub, he does have some guillotine finishes. He does have some finishes from the front choke. I think he's got a pretty good front headlock series. So for all those reasons, I'm going to be looking at the Saidyokub side. But I'm going to kick it to my man Wizz Bets because he's a smart guy and he's on the Lawrence money line here at a good price. So Wizz, how do you feel about this fight and what ultimately led you to the other side?
Yeah, so this is one of the few fights that I chose to take early because of the price tag. I knew it was going to get away just a little bit. So I do have a couple of units on the money line for Ronnie Lawrence. I didn't want to get too cute with it and go with any methods because obviously we've seen how that happened. Ronnie Lawrence, the one thing I like about him is that in this fight, I believe he'll be the minute winner rather than the moment winner, which is why I do see both of your guys' points about the Kakhramonov side. I do think Ronnie Lawrence can get himself sometimes into some pretty bad positions. But when it comes to fighters like Ronnie Lawrence, I compare him a little bit to Bryce Mitchell, where he stays behind his game no matter how many times he fails these takedowns, and he's pretty dang good at it. So backing a fighter like that at the price tag at -110, -120, where I got it, I was pretty happy. And Kakhramonov, sometimes I like his volume, but for some reason, when I was watching the tape, I did not like his body language after going down a round and a half. You can kind of see him slouch a little bit, and to me, I just had to back the Lawrence side there. Like I said, it's only for a couple of units, and at the early number, I don't know if I would have played it if I saw the number right now. But yeah, that's where I'm going here.
I hear you. And yeah, it was about 55% before. Now we're trending upwards almost at the 60%. So, several points of line movement here. Pepe, how do you feel, my brother? I think me and you lined up here with our boy Saidyokub.
Yeah. Who's back to stand up. Let's go. First fight of the night. Getting the underdog is always nice. Underdogs have been coming through at like a crazy high clip in the first fight of the night. And I played Kakhramonov for 2.78 units at +130 about a week ago or so. And I just like the momentum that he's bringing into this fight. He's got a full camp. He's been off for a while. He took that Trevin Jones fight on 4 days' notice. He was in Uzbekistan when he got the call, took a quick plane ride over, cut weight, and had a truly impressive performance. I like his finishing upside. I don't really see much finishing upside for Lawrence. And I generally back the fighters who are going to have more finishing upside if I can get them at dog odds, especially a guy who's 26 in his prime, has more pro fights under his belt than Lawrence. And we've seen Lawrence pull out of fights before for bad weight cuts. And being the first fight of the night, that's generally, they have the least amount of time to rehydrate and get back to their prime. He's 30 years old. Like, I definitely think he's a solid prospect. I'm relatively high on both of these guys. But, yeah, I like Kakhramonov. And I just think this is going to be his coming out party. And I rate him a little bit higher. I know he's unrefined, but I really like the heart that he's shown. Not that Lawrence hasn't shown heart, but yeah, he's fought arguably the higher strength of competition as well. So with all those factors in play, I thought plus 130 was a very generous number. I lined it at minus 110 apiece. And, you had mentioned the submission prop. Bet Online is at plus 800 right now on Kakhramonov by submission. 4 of his 8 wins have been by sub. Lawrence is no scrub. He's a brown belt himself, if I'm correct. So it's not like some slam dunk, but I like what I'm seeing on tape from Kakhramonov and his ability to grab a sub. I think that's a pretty solid price, the plus 800. But, I might add that. But since I went pretty heavy on the plus 130, I might just ride with that. But I think he's going to prove a point. But either way, would I be surprised if Lawrence grinds him out? No, not at all. Super pumped for this fight. I think both these guys are like serious prospects who are going to be in the UFC for a while, and it's probably one of the better fights of the card.
Yeah, that's the thing that's surprising about it is the card placement, because it's a great fight between 2 of the better prospects on the card, you'd have to think. But it's also, people in the comment section are mentioning, it has been a lot of first round type finishes in these opening fights. Sometimes we see the underdog pulling it out. Other times we see a little bit of a back and forth type of war. The UFC tries to get an exciting fight, I would say, out of the first fight of the night. And so they peg the right 2 guys here, right? Ronnie Lawrence, pretty active guy. He's going to come forward. He's going to bring a fight to you for sure. And then on the other side, Kakhramonov, not afraid of anybody, showed that in his last fight, not going to go down without a fight. So should be an excellent scrap between those 2 guys. And I think a lot of grappling. I think a lot of, opportunities, a lot of interesting positions, 2 scrambly guys that can both bring the pace and keep a scramble going. So should be good fun. And let's see who outlasts the other or if somebody's able to get something going early. But I think ultimately I'm going to be siding with the underdog here in the first fight of the night. And with that being said, guys, we've got another matchup. This one, opposite ends of the weight spectrum. We're up at the light heavyweight division. And Karl Roberson, former middleweight, he's going to be moving up to light heavyweight here. I believe he was at light heavyweight in his last bout as well. But this is a guy that, for me, he makes a lot of mistakes. He's very hard to rely on. I thought that the Brendan Allen fight kind of showed his lapses in mental clarity. Like, what should you be doing against Brendan Allen? Trying to hit him, trying to hurt him, trying to land damaging shots. He's out there grappling with the guy, giving up, going for footlocks, giving up heel hooks. So I don't like Karl Roberson's game, but I don't love Kennedy Nzechukwu's game either, right? I got to the Nikolai Negumereanu side, kind of got a gift there. We always talk about the decisions that don't go our way. Talk about the decision that went my way. It was a little bit of a blessing there. But I did think that, there was a chance Negumereanu was going to knock him out in the first round, right? Because we've seen Kennedy's a very hittable guy, especially early in his fights, kind of just a punching bag and starts to pick up the pace a little bit as he goes, starts to get into the fight. I think that we saw some signs of improvement last time out. I do think Kennedy, looked a little more comfortable out there. I thought he fought a better game plan, and I thought he was going to get the win as a result. Didn't quite get it. But I think that we're going to see him, put on a smarter fight than his opponent here. But my question is, how do I get an interest in this fight? I initially wanted to play Kennedy. If I was to play something in this fight, it would probably be Kennedy inside the distance based on Karl Roberson's inability to make it 15 minutes in a fight. But I just have this sneaky feeling that, like, in the first round, Kennedy might just get lit up a little bit at distance. But I think his saving grace is that Karl doesn't have great power. I don't think that Karl's like a huge knockout threat. His knockout in the UFC is the Ryan Spann elbows on the side of the cage. Him and like 5 other guys can claim they've gotten that finish before. So I just think that, that doesn't really tell me as much. If I had to pick a side in this fight, it's Kennedy and Nzechukwu. But I really don't feel very passionately about this fight. Wizz, do you feel differently?
Yeah, no, pretty much spot on with what I was going to say. I do like the Kennedy side. A lot of the time is going to be for the height and the reach advantage. The reach advantage is at 9 inches and the height advantage is at 4. So the much bigger guy here in Kennedy. The one thing I just don't really trust with Kennedy is the volume and the fight IQ. He's had a couple of times where he's winning these rounds and just finds his way into these weird positions where he starts to kind of give it up slowly. And the fight IQ side, I just think he lacks that finishing ability where he's lighting someone up on the feet in those like few moments in the fight, and he just doesn't capitalize on it. He just goes back into his little guard and he just follows him around the cage. Yeah, exactly. So I'm just looking to stay away on this fight. I don't want to be burned on a very poor IQ and low volume performance from Kennedy. And I just don't think Karl Roberson is a side. If only Kennedy had more volume, I would definitely be on that money line.
Yeah, and it's weird, right? Because you'll see Kennedy go out there and throw out a very high clip in some of his fights. You see in other fights, he really lets you down. You're expecting him to throw a little bit more, and then he's out there just standing there watching, high guard up the whole time. Can be a very frustrating fighter to back and to fade. Pepe, do you have any betting interest? Yeah, I know, another Fortis guy.
Yeah, I actually did place a bet today. And I didn't think I was going to be on this side, but I ended up being on the Roberson side for a small bet, 1 unit at plus 122 on Bet Online today. And, the measurables were kind of telling me early in the week that Kennedy should be the side. But the more I thought about the fight and these guys individually, the more I realized that Roberson is way more well-rounded, and Kennedy's wins have been kind of fluky. The Danilo Marquez fight, especially, that was kind of a gifted stoppage just because Danilo was super gassed out. And you look at the guys that Roberson is losing to, they're all top guys. Most of his losses are by submission, something that he doesn't have to worry about with Kennedy. So Roberson is the more well-rounded guy. And Kennedy did show great durability against Oberg. However, the Da Un Jung fight is a huge red flag. Like, once he got hit clean, he pretty much gave up. He didn't want any more of it once he got hit with a power shot. And I trust Roberson's experience, his MMA experience, and his kickboxing experience before MMA. So I'm going to take a small shot on the more skilled guy. Even though I know it's a risky bet, I just have to do it with how I think the fight's going to play out. And I think it's an opportunity where I can hop out live, if I think it's going to go south, because I think Roberson should be best early.
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head there. The problem I have with this fight is, like, do I want to lay the chalk on somebody that I think is, very likely or very well could lose the first round? Like, I think it's a 50-50 proposition at worst that Roberson wins the first round here. He obviously starts most of his fights quite hot. Like, he almost had a rear naked choke locked up on Marvin Vettori in the opening seconds of the fight.
He almost finished Glover. Finished Glover.
Rocked him around. That was one of the only times he's actually shown power in the UFC. But again, Glover does hit the deck in a lot of his fights and find a way back to his feet. So shout out Patty for the donos. Appreciate you big time, brother. That's very critical. And also shout out my man Lieutenant Dan in the comments, says everybody show some love and smash that like button. Appreciate it always when you do. But as for me, this might be a fight I just end up passing on entirely. Both these guys are pretty unreliable. I think that Kennedy has the anthropomorphic advantages. That's something I do like to get on board with. But I don't know, man. I do think Karl has a capacity to lose any fight. So that's something I hate betting on, but I can't disagree with any point that my man Pepe made. It's like, he's probably more skilled everywhere. He's probably, going to be winning the fight until he's losing it. But Karl Roberson, he's let me down so many times. I might just let this one pass me by and leave it to my sharp brethren to collect here, because I don't know if I can take the blood pressure that it's going to cause me.
Honestly, I always kind of like going into a card with betting the first two underdogs too, because usually there's an underdog that hits early. So I have Saidyokub, I have Karl. I feel pretty good that one of them is going to come away with the win.
I like that. And Patty says Kennedy is the more coachable fighter, but Roberson's more skilled. And I agree. Kennedy, he's going to be getting yelled at. You're going to hear, Saif Saud in that corner tearing him apart if things aren't going well. So let's see how it turns out. But speaking of anthropomorphic advantages, we move to the next fight on the card, put together on very short notice here. And again, I'm going to take a little bit of credit for this. Part of the reason I think my process has some success and some longevity is I try and do work that's going to benefit me in the future. And when a lot of people are first hearing of Garrett Armfield for the first time, I have this note, minute by minute for this fight because it was one of the, relevant pieces of data to break down for David Onama and his past fights. And, I try and evaluate these guys based on do I think they're going to stick around for a little bit, or am I taping this and then they're going to be back on the regionals 2 weeks from now and I'm going to have all this information for no reason. And I think we could all see from David Onama, he's got the athletic gifts, right? He could definitely put himself in a position to succeed. He seems durable. He seems like he can hit people and hurt them. He seems physical in the clinch. So I think there's some just intangible things to like about this guy. So I went deep, right? I went through a lot of his fights and also his amateur bouts that were there. I saw this fight and, I thought that the closing line was actually really interesting. I basically said this was a 30-27, my score, but it's closer than this score entails. It was a much closer fight than the score would indicate. So I'm not in a rush to lay this minus 800. That's the straight up truth. This guy, Garrett, I'm not saying he's going to blow your head back. He's not the world's best fighter, but he's never been knocked out. He's been submitted before. Most of his losses are grappling based losses, right? He was taken down and held down for a bit by Ronnie Lawrence. He did lose to Ronnie regionally at the bantamweight class. And he also got submitted by some Canadian fellow that I'm not super familiar with. But for me, that doesn't really tell me a ton, right? Because he did fight Onama in the past. He didn't get knocked out in that fight. Now the Onama inside the distance is being priced at minus 160, which seems a little aggressive here. Is he going to come out here and submit him? I'm not super sure about that. Gabriel Benitez, I bet him in that spot, but I thought that, the chin was the concern, right? If he was going to lose that fight, he was probably going to get knocked out. Gabriel Benitez sometimes gets knocked out. He incurs a lot of damage in his fights. I don't know about that in this spot. I could definitely see Onama beating him again. Last time the fight was basically dictated by Onama's a little bit bigger. He's a little bit longer. He's too rangy for this guy. So he's landing the better shots. He's landing them from a further distance. But every time Armfield got into punching range, he was doing fine. He actually was boxing well with Onama in that fight. So for me, not fired up by the price at all on the Onama side. It would definitely be a dog or pass situation. But that being said, I'm probably just going to end up letting this fight pass me by entirely, maybe taking over. If it's completely juiced to the under, I might take an over in that spot. But otherwise, this guy Armfield, he's probably going to lose, but he's probably going to lose via decision, I would think, or a late stoppage. Maybe it's just too much accumulation. Maybe Onama's just gotten way better. But just watching them fight, it seemed like two guys that were pretty close in skill, and one guy was way bigger and way more athletic, so he won the fight. And I kind of see the same thing happening here, but I'm not sure if an extra 6 minutes is going to change the dynamic so much that he's going to get a finish here. I think it's probably looking at an Onama decision. Wizz, how do you feel about this one, brother?
Yeah. Earlier, I was really excited about the fight originally scheduled, but with this one coming along, obviously you can't really have a play on the money line side unless it's a dog. Looking at the over and the unders, I do think Onama has made the leap into just a different class of fighter than Armfield. So, I've seen a lot of people at minus 185, but am I really enticed to take that at that kind of juice? Not really. The 6 minutes of fight time, I do agree. I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference, but if you're looking at it from hindsight, that's a whole round and a minute right there. So you never know. Ultimately, I just told myself to stay away and just leave this fight as it is because I rate Onama pretty highly, but Armfield is just a little bit of an unknown to me right now.
Yeah, I believe that Onama was up a weight class from him the first time that they fought as well, but I think they both were having such amateur success that they moved this guy up to give competition to Onama because frankly they're from a pretty poor regional scene overall. But that was the thing because a couple people in the In the comments, my man Dan's asking, is this on short notice? Yes, it is. Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. Patty says he thinks Onama could win by sub. Hey, maybe. I think that's more likely, actually, than the knockout. But I was a little bit, let's say, intrigued by the plus 250 on Onama decision. I think that's maybe an interesting look here. I haven't given it full thought yet. But, Pepe, how do you feel, my brother?
I don't feel qualified enough to give like a great diagnosis on Armfield because I didn't do deep enough of a dive on him yet. But I will say lately, when there's short notice spots like this, it seems like the unders are traps. I'm thinking about Damon Jackson versus Argueta. I'm thinking about Preston Parsons against that guy from LFA. A lot of people went heavy on doesn't go the distance and unders. And, they got.
I played the dog in that one. If you guys want to feel better about your unders that didn't cash, I had the dog in that Preston Parsons fight. So God bless you.
He got mollywopped too. So yeah, I'm, over 1.5 for a 145-pound fight too against a guy who's never been knocked out. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So just based on that information, I would think over 1.5 would be the right side to go, but I haven't dove deep enough to make an educated pick or bet, so I'm not going to give anything like that out.
I totally understand, my man. So with that being said, I want to shout out my man, Patty, just going off right now with the dodos. Patty, you are the GOAT. This one's for Chris Curtis. Yo, shout out Chris Curtis. And I think he's got a decent chance of winning that fight. I'll be honest. The fight that just got booked. I know.
Don't get me started on that one.
Some sharp people going to be on the other side of me on that one. But I think that should be a fun one to discuss in the near future. So shout out, Patty. Thank you very much for the dono. Goes a long way, and we truly appreciate it. And with that being said, guys, we can move to the next one on the card here. This one should be a little bit similar in the sense that we've got two fairly raw fighters here. Cody Brundage. He's made a decent account of himself so far in the UFC. He responded to adversity well when he was rocked badly in his last fight, was able to secure a sub there despite being cracked on the chin. But I kind of felt like that was a little bit more Dalcha Lungiambula spending everything in about 4 minutes than it was Cody Brundage doing something remarkable, to be honest with you. And how often do you see somebody hit like a falling back into the full guard guillotine? I mean, geez, Louise, like that's actually hard to do. I guillotine people a lot. The full guard, like pole guard guillotine, pretty low percentage, especially in high level MMA. So he got away with one, and God bless him for it. I think that was a good win for Cody, but I don't know that that's going to be something that carries him up the UFC ranks, let's say. But I think the Maximov fight was a little bit of a better look there, where he was able to go for the 15 minutes. On short notice, slowed down a little bit, but fought through, gave an honest account of himself there. I think that's kind of like Cody Brundage at his best. I think that last fight was really a little bit of luck, a little bit of fortunate tidings. And I bet him in that spot, so I'll take it. And I appreciated that he came out with the win there. But it did give me some hesitation to back him moving forward. And now you got Tresean Gore in this spot, and this is a guy that I faded last time out, right? So I did bet Brian Battle for a decent position. And it was one of my better bets of the card that night. I thought that Brian Battle, clearly won the fight. I thought that Tresean Gore, with some small adjustments, probably could have won that fight, but I thought he was a little tepid, a little low volume. And on top of that, he had just been away for a while. So it's just a big ask of a guy to come back, pretty decent layoff. Hadn't really had a ton of competition experience under his belt anyway. So really put himself in a position to fail, I thought, in that spot where they set him up with this guy who just got through all these fights and was looking good, feeling good, nothing to worry about. So now we're seeing that Brian Battle's moving to a new weight class, probably as a function of some of the shots he took in that fight. He's like, whoa, like maybe I should go down and not expose myself to that. I think that Tresean Gore, this is a get well fight for him as far as I'm concerned. It's not to say he can't lose it. I think that when I look at how the UFC put this together, that's what it looks like to me. It screams, hey, Tresean, let's get your feet back underneath you. Cody Brundage isn't long for the organization. So here's a fight that you could win. But I think that Cody Brundage, he did show he's willing to go out on his shield, right? I've seen him go down to strikes before. I've seen him get wobbled and continue to try and fight somebody and eventually get the win, right? In a fight where he was wobbled as well. I can't remember who it was against off the top of my head, but regionally he was able to make like a comeback win when he was hurt. So I think that it's not outside the realm that he could get hurt and still find a way to win this fight. But I just think Tresean Gore, with his patient striking here, he's just a cleaner striker. I think he's going to land cleanly on Brundage. I don't think Brundage has the greatest defense. I think he's a little wide open as he comes in the pocket. And I just think Tresean's a better athlete than him. So ultimately, I'd favor Tresean Gore here, if ever so slightly. Would be more interested in playing him from a prop perspective than from a money line perspective. Wizz, how do you feel?
Yeah, so here in this fight, I kind of think the minute winner might be Cody, but the moment winner is going to be Tresean. And I think the moments are going to outlast the minutes here because I do see a big probability of Tresean Gore knocking Cody out. Tresean's one of those guys with heavy power, could pretty much catch Cody at any moment, even though he's quite low volume and quite green, in my opinion. I do think he has that patience, as you're mentioning, to wait and pick his shots and not like gas out throwing Hail Marys. And he has some pretty decent takedown defense from what I've seen. So on the ground, I do lean Cody, but I feel like it's going to be a lot harder for him to get Tresean down just due to his sheer strength and athleticism. So I am leaning Tresean Gore here. Do I like the price tag? Absolutely not. Especially for a guy that's had only like 4 professional fights, I believe it is. I can't bet on someone who only has 4 professional fights, even though Cody is not the most experienced guy in the world. So ultimately, I'm passing on this fight unless I do take Tresean Gore by KO in a specific round too. It might be.
Well, if you're going to follow my man Patty with the great dono, he says Tresean Gore round 1 at plus 550 is cool. Pepe, how do you feel, brother?
I have a question for you, Liam. How is Gore's jits?
I don't think it's anything that's going to knock your hair back, but I don't think it's bad either. To be honest, I'd need to do a little more due diligence. He doesn't have a ton of fight tape, but I would want to look at it a little closer to know.
Yeah. I got super lucky. I had Brundage by submission against Dalcha, and it was super dope because Brundage came on Spaces like a couple weeks later and was talking to us. He's a super cool dude. I saw that he hopped on the show with Uncle Wheezy too. I haven't had a chance to look at that show, but they were going to talk about game plan or anything. He even said on Twitter that he was going to be looking to proactively grapple early and often. Overall, I don't have anything on this fight. I was thinking about the under 2.5. It's plus money. If these guys are if Brundage is going to push the pace like that, it could make for a more frenetic fight that could result in a finish like pretty early. And that's something that I could be interested in because I didn't like the way he was reacting to getting hit, against Dalcha. That was not a good look. And then, he's been knocked out by Dalton Rasta and on the AMI scene, who's like a Bellator fighter who's not really known for his power. Gore packs way more power. So it's definitely a red flag. And so I don't know. I think the question that I need answered is how Gore's defensive grappling is. And I haven't been able to find that out yet. So, if anything, I think I would be looking at the under, but as of now, I don't have anything.
I can't disagree with a word that you said there. I think that if he loses this fight, he's going to lose it via submission more often than not, right? Maybe a decision with some grappling control time. But to be honest with you, it's a lot harder to control really good, strong physical athletes than it is to control, somebody who's even technical, right? You can, if I'm more physical than you and you got this nice technique and whatever, that doesn't always mean stuff. Especially if I can punch you in the face like in a fight. So I think that Tresean Gore is going to cause him a lot of problems. I think he's probably a better athlete, like I mentioned, than Cody Brundage. And I would have been more interested in the Brundage side here if he was priced, as a big underdog. Like if he was plus, 170 or something, plus 185. I'd maybe be more interested. I think that would be something that could entice me. I see this more like a 60-40. I think the money line's probably closer to appropriate now, maybe a 65-35 in favor of Gore, depending on where that grappling really ends up being. But plus 450 on the sub is not going to get me out of bed on the Cody Brundage side. To be honest, that was a lucky sub in his last fight. So for all those reasons, it's a favorite or pass type of fight for me. But I like that look that you gave towards the under, because I could actually see both these guys having a path to a finish. Gore's a little bit low volume, but I'm telling you, that was a fight where Brian's hard to hurt, and he kind of eased himself in. I thought he did find a couple good, meaningful shots and did some damage to Brian, but Brian's also throwing back and trying to hurt you. So he was trying to, measure the fight out and be safe. I don't know that Cody's really going to threaten him with big, powerful shots on the feet or anything. So I think that gives Tresean more confidence. He walked down Gilbert Urbina like he didn't matter and dropped him twice with that lead left hook, the counter. And I think he might just be too fast and counter Cody if he does try to throw it that big overhand left. What were you thinking, Pepe?
Yeah. So thinking back to the Brundage fight against William Knight and against Maximov, first of all, his entries against Maximov looked pretty bad. They were super telegraphed, very easy to defend. And then against William Knight, he gets William Knight down, and William Knight, who's not he's a D- grappler, but he's super strong like Gore, just uses his physicality to get back up. Cody shoots again, and William Knight just uses elbows to finish him. So the more I think about it and hash it out with you, the Gore KO is kind of glaring. So yeah, that's kind of where my where I'm going. The more I think about it, probably a Gore KO.
I like where your head's at, my brother. With that being said, we can move on to a fight that won't take us much time to go over, I don't think. Antonina Shevchenko is back. She's taking on Courtney Casey. To be fair, neither of these fighters are very good. You are asked to lay the chalk on the Shevchenko side here, but the more I thought about the fight, the more I understand it. I think that if somebody's going to have takedowns in this fight, it's probably going to be Shevchenko. Courtney Casey's not a very active takedown threat. She doesn't really pursue them very often. She's not getting them at a high clip, that's for sure. I'm looking right now. Her takedown accuracy is 27%. She's attempting less than one takedown per 15 minutes. She's achieving a quarter of that per 15 minutes. She's not going for takedowns, right? So if your game plan is we need to get on top of this girl, I just don't see Courtney Casey implementing that game plan. I haven't seen it much from her. So then the question is, okay, what's going to look like if this fight takes place in the feet? I mean, we got one girl who's clearly better, I think, in Shevchenko on the feet. Not to say that, she's a runaway great striker and she's going to beat everybody in the division or anything like that. But it's just to say Courtney Casey doesn't really hurt anybody with anything that I've seen. So I think that Courtney's going to, try and throw. I think she's going to step into the pocket and throw some volume. If they start to grapple, though, I think Shevchenko is going to be more physically, imposing. I think she's probably going to be the one who ends up on top. Could she get meme subbed? I guess, but I don't really see that as a huge possibility either. From what I saw, her bottom game sucks. She's just terrible on bottom. And if you've ever been to a jiu-jitsu class, people like this, right? I always try and put myself to my back so I can get better from there, so I can get more comfortable, because I know that I feel comfortable on top of people. But when I'm underneath somebody who's really good, I don't want to be what's happening? That was what was happening to Antonina, right? Anytime she got put underneath somebody, she looked like Greg Hardy. Her eyes go wider than, she's going on a roller coaster. So everything, she starts panicking. I don't like fighters like that when they're underneath. I'm just not sure that Courtney's going to get on top of her. So am I passionate about this fight? No. Am I going to be laying a bet on this fight? Likely not. But do I think that Shevchenko wins, or probably wins at a decent clip? I actually do. Pepe, we'll mix it up. We'll start with you this time, my brother. Do you agree with me? You think that Shevchenko should probably win this fight? Or are you liking cast iron Courtney Casey to push herself, one further away from that 500 mark and get to the 11-9 record on the career?
So for whatever reason, Courtney, I've always kind of liked Courtney Casey just as a fighter. I just like her gritty mentality. She's super tough. She doesn't have the technical skills to back it up, but she's game as fuck. And I love those kind of girls. You know what I mean? And that armbar she pulled off on Mara Borella was sick. I just remember Barella being like, ah! She like screamed as Courtney ripped her arm, and like Casey did the whole thing like that. But as far as this matchup, I don't like picking a money line side. I don't think there's any value on either side. Courtney Casey's just too low volume. She's too hittable. She doesn't have the grappling to get the fight to the ground. Some juice on the over 2.5 at minus 185, 1.85 units to win a unit. And I have some CLV on it. I don't love the bet, but I do think it cashes at a pretty good clip. I think it should be around like minus 230, minus 240, because Courtney Casey's super tough. Like I was talking about, it's going to be tough to finish her. So I don't really see a finish happening. I see this going all 15 in a mostly striking affair. I'll definitely be super pissed if I lose this bet, because it just sucks when you lay chalk on it over with women and it doesn't hit, because it's always so gross. But I do see the over 2.5 hitting. I'll definitely be rooting my girl Courtney Cast Iron Casey on. But yeah, I would stay far away from the Shevchenko money line.
Yeah, I think all of what you're saying makes sense to me. I'm seeing Shevchenko to win by decision. It's like plus 120, plus 130 across most of the market. And that kind of lines up with what you're saying, where, it's probably a fight that goes more often than not. You're seeing the favorite to win by decision is being priced, very similarly, to her money line, really closely correlated. And so it looks like a decision fight.
Yeah. It's interesting because Courtney Casey has been submitted twice in her career, and both submission losses happened at the over 2.5 mark. So, she's never lost. Yeah, she's never lost under 2.5. On a fight there, they're saying it's most likely going to be a Shevchenko win. I like the over 2.5.
Yeah, and you're sitting there like a bookmaker on this fight as well, because I'm seeing minus 210 as the best price available on the over. So great job getting to the market early, and seems like you're on the right side, certainly on the side that the market is going to agree with for this weekend.
Yeah, it could be sweaty though,
Yeah, it could be a girl gets beat up, but makes it. And hey, that's all we need from Cast Iron Courtney Casey. It doesn't matter if she wins, loses, draws. Just get over that 2.5 one more time, girl. And cash that ticket for Pepe. And shout out to Patty. Says WMMA dogs have sported a beautiful plus ROI so far this year. I think that's true. I've been cashing in bigly. And I will just say this, though. As my man Yanni the Greek likes to say, beware of that regression. We don't want to just blind bet into trends. I always say matchups are everything. So you want to look at the matchup and see, does the matchup give me a good chance of this trend continuing? For example, Saidyokub Kakhramonov, underdogs at the beginning of the card. They've been winning a lot. I kind of feel it on this matchup. Okay. But if you don't feel it in the matchup, don't just blind bet into a trend, because that'll leave you heartbroken as well. Truth is, 59% of middleweight fights end inside the distance. Did you feel like that main event last week had a chance of ending inside the distance? I know after watching, I didn't. So I think we got to be cognizant of that. We got to remember that, because that was my rationale for the fight doesn't go the distance. 59% for the division. Both these guys got knockout power. They danced and danced and danced. It was a nice merengue, but I didn't get any bread in my pockets. You know what I'm saying? So that's not what I'm interested in doing. I'm interested in breaking down the matchups one by one, and I think that this is a matchup that the over might be a good place to target. Maybe fight goes to decision if you want to rely on the toughness and durability. Wizz, how do you feel, my brother? Do you like a side on this matchup? Are you going to be rolling with the total? Are you going to be passing on this fight like I was planning on? What's up, brother?
No. Just a no. No, dude, I couldn't highlight this fight any better than you guys highlighted it. I don't think Antonina is a side, actually. I think Casey's the side. But am I touching that fight with a 6-foot pole? Probably not. I'm just going to let it be, because in fights like this where I feel like they're fighting for their job necessarily, anything could happen. And in these situations, I always seem to back the dog because they're just a little hungrier. I think both women need a win, or else they'll probably get cut from the UFC. And I do think Casey's just that much tougher. But yeah, I'm not touching this fight, and I have no more words about this one.
I love it. Shout out to my man Based in the comments, says the Wizz no is becoming a classic. It's absolutely necessary sometimes. $1 saved is $1 earned. So why is my man going to get overextended? He said, no. I looked at this fight and I said, no. Okay, move on. I got the message, my brother. With that being said, guys, we have a much more interesting fight, in my opinion, at 135 pounds. And this is a fight that I've kind of been, going back and forth on all week. So maybe you guys will talk me one way or the other. But I kind of have a slight lean towards the underdog here from a betting perspective. And it's hard for me to say, right? Because I was wrong about Tercios last time, right? Straight up. I always like to acknowledge off the top here when I got a fighter wrong last time, so you guys know, like, maybe Liam just has a shitty opinion about this guy. He gets him wrong. So straight up, got this one wrong last time, right? I bet Brady high stand in that fight as an underdog. Felt okay about it. I didn't think that he was going to win the fight as I was watching it play out. He did end up losing the fight. And I thought that it got worse and worse as the fight went on, right? He was just having marginal success early, getting some takedowns, really didn't know what he wanted to do. I felt like he wasn't very intentional with his game. And so he kind of left some openings. Tercios is a willing scrambler. He's a lifelong martial artist. I was reading, he grew up training with his dad. He's done martial arts and taught martial arts since he was young. So I think all that is good for him. But he might just be like one stage in the development behind somebody like Aieman Zahabi. And Aieman's not very active. I don't like that about him. He's old for the division. I don't like that about him. He's like 34. But I do think that he's not a bad fighter, right? Like I watch Aieman, and he's going to be the kind of guy that most bettors like us hate, right? He doesn't do anything, right? I talked about from a DFS perspective, everybody's going to hate Aieman Zahabi, right? He doesn't throw, and then he's not really proactive in shooting for takedowns or grappling or something like this. So maybe he just gets out-volumed and swarmed on the feet here by a guy who throws a lot more than he does. But I do think that there's this concern I have, which is like he's patient and he picks counter shots and he has a decent bit of power. And we've seen that like fighters that aren't necessarily elite fighters, Manny Martinez comes to mind, have knocked out Ricky Tercios in the past. Pretty early too. So that for me was a little bit of a concern. I did tape that fight when I was taping Manny Martinez back in the day. It did give me some, pause, I would say, on the Tercios side. And that's why I thought Brady Highstand, young kid, going to be making improvements, pretty physical, pretty persistent guy, is going to come forward and make it a fight. Wasn't able to match him in terms of the volume, wasn't able to match him in terms of the skills and the development. Maybe Aieman Zahabi is able to do that, right? I think if Ricky is trying to get inside and shoot takedowns in this spot, I think he might get stuffed up a little bit, right? I think that Zahabi has decent hips from what I've seen. He's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He trains with a lot of Jiu-Jitsu guys at TriStar. And I think that on top of that, he does have pretty singular shot power in a way that I'm not sure Ricky does. So if this fight hits the scorecards, it's almost certain that Aieman Zahabi is going to lose the fight unless he was on top grappling, because he just doesn't do enough. But I think if somebody finishes this fight, especially in the first 2 rounds, I would be surprised if it was Ricky Tercios. I think that Aieman's just a little more dangerous than he is, a lot more power in his shots, and he picks his shots to land big, impactful ones when he does go. And I think that showed in his last fight. Draco Rodriguez, obviously not on the level, but still it was an impressive win for me in the sense that he showed patience and he knew that he finished that fight. Like, he landed the shot and he was like already hands up, like, please don't arrest me. Like, I think that he just has a little bit more poise in the pocket than somebody like Tercios, who is almost like a, death by 1,000 cuts, like so nervous about fighting that he's just throwing. Like, I think he likes to be in a fight, but I also think that he's less comfortable in a fight in some ways than Aieman Zahabi, as weird as that sounds. So I think I like the Zahabi side here just a touch, but not sure if I'm going to get there yet from a money line perspective. He is one of the dogs I was taking a look at on this card. But I do know my man Pepe over there, sharp fellow, in early, on the other side. So please tell us what you see in the Ricky Tercios side, my friend.
Yeah, so I played Ricky pretty big at -160, and the market followed me a bit. He's around like -190 now, and it's more of like a stats and data play. I'm getting the much younger fighter. I'm getting the guy with much higher volume in a fight that's favored to go the distance. You know, I can't really be afraid of finishing upside in the 135 division. You know what I mean? So it's pretty much a process play for me. I'm also a big Tertios fan. I think he's fucking cool. I like his whole shtick, his personality, and I think
Just ride the wave, man.
Yeah, I met him in Vegas too last year at the Ortega Volkanovski fight. He's just as cool in person. I told him that he channels the word of God, and he was like super humble about it. But yeah, I think it's kind of a showcase fight for him. I think there could be some danger spots for him, but he's been training full time at Alpha Male. And I just like his chances a lot if it goes to the scorecards. And, you know, he has been durable. He has the 1 KO loss, but other than that, he's shown that he's durable. And Zahabi is coming off that KO win, but it's not like he's been a power puncher his career. And like the thing about Draco Rodriguez is like his striking is so elementary. Like he just doesn't move his head a lot. He's super easy to hit. And like Tertios is going to be bobbing and weaving and playing from the outside the whole time, kicking, mixing in kicks or strikes, kicks, takedowns. And Zahabi is like, he's very hesitant about his shots. So in a situation like that, I liked Ricky quite a bit at minus 160. So I pulled the trigger and feel pretty good about it.
I can't dispute that. And the one thing I will note is Zahabi, I think, is tied for 4th highest knockdown rate on the card. So we don't really have a ton of power punchers on this card. Maybe that's what's drawing my attention towards him. You know, I'm like looking for somebody with a chance. But I do think he's probably got more power than Ricky, but I don't think that is necessarily a defining factor. Like you mentioned, 135 pounds. If anything, people probably overrate the KO to underrate it in this division, but it is a division where guys can still crack. So, hey, I think it should be good fun, but in a fight that's favored to go the distance, betting on the guy who's going to win the minutes, who could argue with that? Seems logical. So, Wizz, did you agree with me? Do you think Zahabi might be a little bit live as an underdog? Do you agree with my man Pepe in thinking that Tercios is a solid play here? What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm actually on the Tercios money line at minus 170. Pepe beat me by a little bit there, but I just
Pepe the bookmaker.
Yeah, Pepe the bookmaker beat me there. Yeah, I just like the volume from Tercios. I just think Zahabi also is getting up there in age for the division, and he's losing a little bit of his speed versus someone against like Tercios, who really stands behind his 1-2 combos and his 4-piece outputs, which to me, I think in this division is probably the best quality to have. Staying in that range, knowing your distance, and like you guys have emphasized, in the KO rate in this division isn't the highest. So I'm not going to bank on Zahabi's one-punch power. And I know Tercios has lost that one knockout to Mana Martinez, but Mana can crack. I can confidently say that Mana cracks. Another angle that I was looking to get at in this fight is Tercios scorecards only. So I'm interested to see how that one lines up, what the line is there. But I'm looking to add on to that.
I like it. So I think, broadly speaking, the boys are going the other way here. So that's going to give me a lot of pause, a lot of hesitation to get on a dog play here. Maybe I'll wait, see if the market continues to agree with the boys. Maybe I'll get a better number if I do decide to enter on the Zahabi side. But seems like Ricky Tercios is getting the love, both from a market stand-up perspective and also from what we're seeing in terms of line movement over the course of the week. So all those things suggest maybe I got to double check my work here on the Zahabi side. But I will certainly let you guys know where I end up on the fight before fight time rolls around. With that being said, we've got Michael Johnson taking on Jamie Mullarkey, and I mean, I got to give a ton of credit to my man. I call him Pepe the bookmaker. On this one, I don't even know what to say. The guy's sitting there literally like a bookmaker. He's got plus money over here. He's got plus money over there. That's a no-lose situation. Can't beat it. So tell me what fight we're talking about, Pepe, that you ended up getting plus money on both sides at Bettor's Dream.
I was hella surprised that they opened Mullarkey at plus 130, and I obviously the market agrees with me. You're getting the much younger guy, the taller, longer guy who is shown more durability and grit against Michael Johnson, who has struggled against anyone who has any kind of wrestling, has shown to quit. I thought Mullarkey was going to be lined at like minus 150, minus 160, and I would have stayed away and, done a bit more research into the fight and probably ended up passing. But the plus 130, I had to max bet it for as much as they allowed me to. And then when I saw how much it moved, it surprised me again, because having Mullarkey at, minus 230, minus 240, is kind of crazy since he just got finished so recently. And he, despite him being durable, he has shown that he can be finished.
Durable to a point, as we say.
Yeah, exactly. So, it just worked out perfect so that I was able to grab the best of both numbers. Doesn't happen often, but you have to pounce when the opportunities present themselves, and I'm always ready.
Look at this man go, sitting there like a bookmaker, got plus money on both sides, can't lose. And on top of that, he'll give you a breakdown of, maybe the line is too far now. It's not just did I get in on the right side early, maybe the market's too aggressive now, because I think one of the things you got to watch out for in MMA is steam chasing, right? People do it all the time. People don't even watch the fights. People don't even know what they're looking at. Or know what they're betting, and they see, it just moved 10 points on this, so I better jump in before it goes, and I better, and then especially when the numbers are soft, right? When they're brand new, fresh, open numbers, they're going to move. They're going to be very sensitive, right? So they get 10 max bets. We could flip this number and start going the other way to the 2XX range like we saw here. So I would be surprised if they moved it this strongly off a bunch of dummies betting, right? It's like Pepe's a winning account that bet this early, right? I'm sure he's one of several, and then the number's gone forever, right? Then you have to ask yourself, though, are they trying to bait, like too much of a liability on this side? Maybe it's a sharp and public trap spot. So I think all these things are considerations you need to make on a market like this. And the huge movement in either direction always gives me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies. So you'd prefer to be somebody like Pepe with plus money on both sides, can't lose, than you'd rather be, hey, do I take this, big attractive plus number on Michael Johnson that they want me to take now, or do I, lay this big number on somebody who's probably not reliable enough to cover it, like Jamie Mullarkey? They put you in a tough position there, and that's why they're good at their job. Never met a bookmaker with a part-time job. So, Wizz, how do you feel about this one, brother?
Yeah, with this one, I do see liabilities in both fighters. One of them being common, the chin. I don't like either of these guys' chins. But the one thing I'm favoring Mullarkey for is the youth. He's 9 years younger. He also is 2 inches taller. I think both guys are pretty equal on the feet. I like Johnson's speed, but I also like Mullarkey's angle cutting. He also has the grappling advantage there too. I've seen a lot of people hop in on the Michael Johnson side this week at the plus 200 range, and I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to knock anyone that takes Mullarkey either, but I think you definitely missed the whole train there. I'm ultimately passing on this fight just due to the sheer fact that I think it could end pretty quickly, or I think it's just going to be a zombie mode all the way until the decision. And in a decision, I kind of favor Michael Johnson here. Even though we've seen him give up and find ways to lose in the past. I just think that the experience might carry him here against Mullarkey, who tends to get hurt instantly when you hit him a couple times on his chin. So yeah, I'm just ultimately staying away. But I do lean Mullarkey. If you do bet it, it's going to be tough to bet at this line.
I think Jamie Mullarkey is probably the like tougher guy, just like who is more likely to stay in the fight when things are going poorly. But I do think the more skilled guy is Michael Johnson. That does lead me to this position where I'm never going to bet on Michael Johnson. Just like it's going to be, hell will freeze over the day I bet on Michael Johnson, to be honest with you. It's just not going to happen. I bet on Alan Patrick last time, if you need to know. Like it's never going to happen on Michael Johnson's side. But I don't think that I'm going to get there on the Malarkey side either this week. Too many questions, too many problems. I thought that we actually saw better form for Michael Johnson in his last fight, which is rare for a fighter of his age. But I think the problem is, at the end of the day, you can't fix a chin, right? We talk about that. You can't fix a chin, and I don't think Michael Johnson's chin is all that great. And he's 36, right? So he's a little old for this division. We talked about Jamie Malarkey's the younger guy. He doesn't have a great chin, but what younger guys have is recoverability, which means they get hit, they get hurt, they're wild, wobbling, but then they can find a way back to like consciousness and holding on to somebody, staying in the fight. I do think as you get older, it's harder to do that. So for me, that's a problem. A potential problem is the grappling here. 3 wins by rear naked choke for Jamie Malarkey. Michael Johnson's allergic to grappling. He doesn't like doing it. If you start making him, he will oftentimes lose quickly, like thereafter. But it's that initial entry where he stuffs a lot of people. So if Jamie Malarkey is not getting in on the takedowns, maybe he does just get lit up at space. I can see that happening, but he's got a little bit of the length factor as well. He's a big guy. I don't know, man. I think at lightweight, hopefully his durability is going to fare better. I'm not going to hold it too hard against you that you got, finished by Jalen Turner. I think it's going to happen to better guys too. But I do have some concerns with him moving forward, and especially being priced as this significant a favorite. I believe his record in the UFC is 2-3, and he's minus 250 now in the UFC. So granted, you could give him that Fiziev win, 3-2. Still 60%. You're being asked to lay well over 70% here. I think it's probably best, if you miss the early numbers, to stay off the Jamie Malarkey side at this point, though I do favor him to win the fight based on his youth. That being said, folks, we can move on here. I think that this fight may be compelling, and I actually have a bet on this one, which I never thought I was going to say at the beginning of the week. But we've got Nina Nunes coming back here, 10-7. Just like Courtney Casey, working on that 500 record, just trying to keep it just over. And on the other side here, we've got the recently extremely unimpressive Cynthia Calvillo. I cashed a nice bet, plus money. Andrea Lee last time out, plus 112 in that spot, I believe. So that was a fine bet. She looked like a hindsight minus 400. I truly don't know what happened there. Like, Cynthia looked terrible. I think the physicality at 125 has been a little tough for her to adjust to. I think this is a much more manageable task in that regard. 2 former 115-pounders here. And I think that when I look at how I expect this fight to play out, I don't think Nina Nunes has poor takedown defense per se. She did an okay job in some of her past fights, but I didn't see that against Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie normally has a hard time taking people down, got right on top of her in that spot. And, she did a good job of mitigating, I guess. Like, she didn't get instantly submitted, but I felt like she didn't have any real resistance to offer in terms of getting back up and getting away from the grappling. I didn't see that same level of motivation. And that being said, right, I did go back and listen. She had kidney stones like the week of the fight. That can't be advantageous for your performance. I'm sure she wasn't training optimally. If that's the case, she was coming right back off of pregnancy. She took a little bit more time in between fights here. But again, it's like now she's had a huge gap between fights. Again, had a big gap before that. Hasn't had a win, I don't believe, since 2019. So if I'm wrong, it's 2018, right? It's been a while since she accrued a UFC win. That was over Claudia Gadelha, since retired for a while as well. So it's like, for me, I do have some question marks about where Nunes is in this division. I'm not really sure how to get a good benchmark of it. And I think Cynthia, this might be a buy low spot for Cynthia, right? And I'm not thrilled or excited to go play Cynthia on the money line. After her last fight, like, betting her on the money line is something I'll probably never do again. She just checked out mentally, didn't want to fight anymore, quit on the stool. Not a good look. But she was getting beat up in that spot, right? So it's like, I do think it was an unwinnable fight at that point. She kind of knew that. She was like, yeah, I'll see my way out here. I think that she might get takedowns in this spot, right? She wasn't able to get them. Andrea Lee is just too big, too physical, too strong for her. Wasn't able to get her down. Was beating her up in the clinch too, especially. That was the real problem for her. She took a lot of damage trying to get inside. She was way too far outside for most of the fight. By the time she got inside, she had already taken a lot of shots. So felt like Cynthia put forth a pretty poor effort there. And I think that she knows that. She knows that if she wants a career, a job in this company, she's got to beat somebody like Nina Nunes, who's ready to retire, straight up. You read articles from what she's saying here. She's saying, I do want to have more kids. Maybe this won't be my last fight. I'm not betting on you, period. Never. If you're talking about the kids you're having outside the octagon and this and that, it's like Cowboy Cerrone. Dad Cerrone had a real bad record in the UFC. Let's be honest. I think when you're all in, when you're fully focused, I'm ready to support you. When you're 1 foot out the door, moving on with your family, I'm no longer ready to support you. So for me, this is a favorite or pass type situation. Gonna be honest, guys. I did get to the subline here. Cynthia Calvillo, if you go back and watch her fights, she's a good back taker. She has pretty aggressive subs. When she fought pretty quality fighters like Marina Rodriguez, she got 10-8 rounds from her grappling, getting on top, forcing people into bad positions. And I think that at 115 against these girls who are competing for like real title shots and like trying to move up in their career, she wasn't able to get the sub always because she's not that technical, but I do think she's more technical than Nina Nunes on the ground. I think she's a better wrestler. I think she might be able to get on top of her ear. And I think if she does, the Calvillo submission is going to be live. So I like Calvillo. I like her to win by sub. Wizz, how do you feel, brother?
Yeah, so ditto. We're both on that Calvillo sub line. And same reason. I don't think Nina Nunes is all in anymore. I do not like that interview that she put out with saying that she might want more kids, that she might fight again in the UFC. Like when someone says, "Yeah, this might not be my last fight," I immediately am like, "Okay, this is ultimate fade spot." Now, I wouldn't take the money line either. We've seen Calvillo in their last couple fights how she's been performing, so I would not encourage taking the money line. But I do like the sub prop. I do like the aggressive grappling from Calvillo. I do like the level of the grappling against those higher level competition girls at 115. And I do think she is the bigger girl overall at 125 since they're both moving up. Especially with Nina Nunes coming from a pregnancy, it's a lot more difficult, I feel, when fighters who were pregnant coming back on their first couple fights to really get acclimated, especially at a higher weight class. So ultimately, this leads me to taking Calvillo by sub. Now, would I be surprised if she wins a decision? Probably not. But plus 450, I'll take a stab at that sub line.
Can't dispute anything you said there. I like it. What about you, Pepe? You think we're crazy?
No, I don't have anything on it yet, but I've been tempted to play Cynthia Moneyline all week. You just look at the girls that she lost to: Andrea Lee, Jessica Andrade, and Caitlin Chukagian. Before that, she was main eventing. She beat Jessica I. She went to a draw with Marina. She beat Joanne Wood. She choked out Pearl Gonzalez. She beat Jillian back in the day. She beat Aspen Ladd on the amateur scene. She's 2.5 years younger. It's pretty clear that Cynthia is a side. People are saying that, she's just not there anymore and she's giving up. It's like, dude, Andrea Lee, hurt her to the body, really bad. And Andrea Lee was way bigger than her in that spot and just looked incredible. Her striking was super on point. Obviously, it's not a great look giving up on the stool, but it's like you have to factor in the strength of the competition they're facing. And now she's facing a 115er who's about to retire, who's 37 years old with 1 foot out the door. I think minus 142 is pretty damn fair. So I'm gonna monitor the line, see where it goes in the next couple days, and I might take a little poke at that sub prop too. But I wouldn't be shocked at a decision whatsoever. I think she could get a decision at a pretty decent clip, implementing grappling and striking. I don't think she's drawing dead on the feet, to a 37-year-old Nina Ansaroff.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, right? And the last fight, I thought she was kind of drawing dead on the feet. That's why I got to the dog there. I was like, how is she going to win this fight if she can't get takedowns? And she got beat up, like straight up beat up on the feet. I can't recall the last time Nina Nunes beat somebody up. It's like she could beat somebody in a fight. She could win 15 minutes of cage fighting, but she really doesn't hurt that many people. She really doesn't put that many people in danger of being submitted, of being hurt with strikes. So I think that we got to talk about who's more dangerous, right? And Pepe, me and you talk about sometimes that's our edge, right? Everybody else is looking at who's going to win the minutes. I don't give a shit. If the other guy's snoring in the first 3, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So that's what I always think about as well. And I think that in this case, who's more likely to get a finish? It's Cynthia Calvillo, and probably by a decent margin. So then if you think she's going to win the decision too, maybe this is a Cynthia Calvillo spot. I did hesitate on the money line, but maybe I get there by fight time. That's all I'm going to say. Because the more I've thought about this fight, the more I've liked it for Cynthia Calvillo, despite the fact I put, I don't know, like an ungodly amount of units on Jessica Andrade to beat this woman. So it's like I've been on the fade Cynthia train. I might be getting back on the Cynthia train this weekend because I think she's got a winnable fight. And I think, in terms of who's more likely to treat this like I need this for my career, I think we got an obvious answer there. So it's going to be a Calvillo or pass situation for me.
Same here. And I think it's kind of one where like I'm going to monitor weigh-ins. Like I don't always do that, but I'm going to monitor weigh-ins and see how big they look and just see like how they look physically, just because there's a lot of intangibles at play for this one. But yeah, I'm not like in a rush to slam Cynthia money line, but it's definitely on my radar.
I just locked in a round robin of submissions, and I did this last week, and it was $25 on the round robin, won $708. So if you guys stick around to the end and you drop a like on this video, I'm going to share with you guys what I put that on. Always tail responsibly, but that is something I took my bet down. I put it down $50 on a round robin for subs this week. So if you guys are curious about that, stick around to the end. I'll make sure I share it with you guys. And with that being said, folks, we have another fight here that's going to stink up the joint. I mean, geez Louise, we've got a terrible heavyweight fight coming up next. Maybe the 2 worst guys in the UFC heavyweight division. It's certainly bottom 5, right? We got Jared Vanderaa. We need Harry Hunsucker to make this a triple threat for the worst UFC heavyweight. But shout out to these guys. They're going to show up. We've got 2 jars of milk. Our good friend Jared Vanderaa, the original jar of milk, he's taking on Chase Sherman. What is this, the 5th iteration of Chase Sherman in the UFC? The guy can't get fired. He's the only thing that's recession-proof in this economy. It's like you can have inflation except on Chase Sherman. The guy's just going to get another opportunity to fight in the UFC, so bless him for it. He's not a very good fighter. Can he win this weekend? Yeah, he can win this weekend. He's fighting an even, a fighter that's almost as bad as he is, right? It's like, I think neither one of these guys inspires great confidence. That's obvious. But Jared Vanderaa has no ability to functionally brain think. It's like his last fight, I described how he would have to win. You'd have to throw a jab and step to the left. I'm not a genius, right? I'm not Mr. Nostradamus. No fighters are calling me and saying, Liam, I need a game plan for my fight. What should I do? But I'm telling you that if you do that against Alexei Oleinik, you can't lose. You actually can't lose. If you just jab and step to the left, he doesn't attempt takedowns. He's a middleweight, right? So it's like the guy is just DOA. He's left standing there. He's 44. He can't move his arms anymore. So he's just like eating punches. If you just throw punches, he can't win. So what does he do? He goes for a back take. It's like you actually can't make it up. You can't make it up. It was written like a comedy. He goes for a back take and instantly gets submitted, loses position. It was hysterical. I'll never bet $1, not $1 US on Jared Vanderaa. I won't bet your money on Jared Vanderaa. That's what I learned in that fight. Never, ever. Okay, Chase Sherman. He's terrible, right? I bet him in his last fight for like a half a unit or something against my boy Jake Collier, the hybrid, who should be on a multiple fight win streak, by the way. But I bet a tiny position on him against Collier because I was like, man, if this fight plays out on the feet, I kind of think that there's some decision equity for Chase Sherman. The problem is if Chase Sherman's back touches the floor even one time, the fight is over. The guy cannot fight from his back. He's Greg Hardy 2.0. The guy goes to his back and starts panicking and just giving away positions. He gave that sub to Jake Collier like it was a Christmas morning. Like he just was like, here you go, like face down, ass up. Like it was not a very inspiring performance from Chase. But then he gets in there with a guy who he had no chance of winning against, right? Like the biggest underdog in UFC history. Thank goodness, boys. I did not put a bet on Chase Sherman in that instance, right? I did know that Romanov was going to do whatever he wanted in that spot. So then the ultimate question is, do we just pass on this entirely? I think we probably should, for our sanity, for our blood pressure, for our sense of self-worth. But if I had to get to a play on this fucking fight, I'm betting the underdog, Chase Sherman. I don't care that he's the worst fighter in UFC history. Wiz, how do you feel?
So I'm gonna quote our good friend Uncle Weezy on this one. I think this fight ends in diabetes, and I just can't seem to understand how these two guys are still in the UFC. On the one hand, you have Chase Sherman, who is on a 4-fight losing streak, and then on the other hand, you have Vanderaa, who might be on his way to a 4-fight losing streak. Who knows? Either one gets snapped and one starts. But I don't know. I don't understand the line. I don't understand how Vanderaa is ever a -180 favorite in any fight. I do.
Jared Vanderaa, 65% in a UFC fight. Who would have thought we'd see the day?
Yeah, dude. I don't understand that, but I know if you come out of Hammett, California, you are one tough son of a gun. That's for sure. But yeah, this fight is an ultimate pass, like the ultimate no on this one.
Yes, a classic trademarked Wiz no.
Yeah, no analysis on this fight from me. I just wanted to joke around a little bit. I can't even, my brain doesn't function to analyze these kind of fights. I can't.
You're a better man for it. Pepe, what do you think? Should I waste money on this heavyweight fight or just let it pass me by?
I don't know. From a money line perspective, it's dog or pass, but the other way you could waste money on it is chasing some round 2 and 3 Vanderaa props. Like if you think he can grab the submission, which obviously he can get a submission, it's just I think if Vanderaa gets him down like at any point in the fight, he could probably finish it like fairly easily, but his fight IQ is so non-existent. It's embarrassing to admit, but I had like 3 units on Vanderaa at plus money against Oleinik, and I was like, this is the easiest bet ever.
Multiple units. He was 13 years younger. Like,
yeah.
Mind-blowing.
When he went to the triangle, when he went to try to lock in the triangle off of his back and his ankles couldn't wrap around each other because they were too fat, was just like the ultimate MMA.
He went for a triangle. Like a from the back, like inverted, like what are you doing, dude? He's never hit that in practice. Like,
on Alexei Oleinik.
Yeah, exactly. Just no brain thinking, zero brain activity detected. That's actually what they said after the fight. They were like, Jared, are you okay? Like we're not detecting brain activity. There might be a problem with your vitals. Like
he was fucking him up too. Like I was like, this is easy. Like I didn't
could
think
he
it was
not?
gonna be that easy. I know.
Don't bet $1 on. Listen to me. If you like yourself, if you love yourself, if you believe in yourself, don't bet on Jared Vanderaa this weekend, even if it wins. Do you hear me? You hear what I'm saying? Don't bet on it. Don't. Just let it go. Let this fight pass you by. I will too. I bet Vanderaa is going to win by sub now to freaking shake one for the people. But if Parker Porter can't get a Porker team, then I'm not going anywhere near this, man. That's it. I'm done with these guys. I'm gonna let this play out. And I'm going to go take a smoke break. It's that simple. I'm going to smoke while this fight does whatever it does on my screen and probably gives our computers all a virus, to be honest. But with that being said, folks, we have a much better fight, much more competitive, and a lot more intriguing. It's going to be a main card bout at 135 pounds. And we've got the very tough, the very well-schooled Douglas Silva de Andrade, and he's taking on another one of the Klansmen, Said Nurmagomedov. The family is here in force. No, not that Nurmagomedov. Let me stop you. This is a different guy, right? Looks similar, but he's not going to be Mr. Dagestani 20 takedowns. I'm on your back. I'm in your face. He's not really that guy. He is one of the other archetypes of Russians that I talk about, right? There's the archetype of the grinding wrestler with a lot of forward pressure. Think Khabib. There's the spin kick guy. He's the spin kick guy. And those guys can be a lot of fun. I think that he is a very dangerous guy. in terms of Said Nurmagomedov, right? I was bigly involved on the Cody Stamann decision line in his last fight because I was thinking to myself, man, if Cody's able to bring some of that wrestling game to bear, maybe he's able to get on top of this guy. He's able to make him work. He's able to push that pace. He did lose a close decision to Hany Barcelos. I'm like, maybe if he mixes his martial arts here, he can really get one over on this guy. Plus 300. Cody Stamann doesn't really win, normal fights inside the distance. So I'm like, man, I could really get behind a Cody Stamann by decision at plus 300 here. And he just absolutely got smashed, right? It wasn't a competitive fight for a second. He went out there, got hurt early, tried to shoot, gets ninja choked. So, like, for those of you who aren't aware, there's a guillotine, and that's a good one, and I like them. But there's something that's even, like, worse, right? It's like I've now lost the ability to even fight hands because the guy goes here, all the way up, and across. So now it's just I got to try and fight his hand up by his own shoulder. It's going to be a disaster, right? I'm going to go to sleep. That's the truth. Once you're in a ninja choke, you're probably going to go to sleep unless you're able to roll, maneuver your body, like change the neck angle. It's going to be really tough, right? It's a very tight lock. That for me was like extremely impressive, right? Cody Stamann, we've seen him submitted before, but like almost always in meme-like fashion in a fight where he is the worst grappler and he's been proven to be the worst grappler, right? Aljamain Sterling was able to get on top of him. Suluev stretch in a fight where he was, in a lot of competitive riding positions, really wore on him before he was able to get that sub and just caught him out of position, right? Cody's a wrestler. So what did he do? He's got somebody on his back. He went to base up, go for that quad pod type situation. Whoop, scoops the leg out from underneath him. That's just brilliant grappling from Aljo. He's one of the best grapplers in the division, period. This guy, Said Nurmagomedov, we're all talking about the spin kicks and the fact that he's got these violent finishes. He takes out Striegel in like 2 seconds to open a card once. He's been a dangerous guy, but we know him to be dangerous by the hands. We know him to be dangerous by the kicks. He finished Ricardo Ramos with a spin kick to the body as well. We don't really know him as well as this grappling threat. That was a dangerous choke. That's a choke that can finish anybody. And it shows me that his finishing instincts are very good. Right? If you give him a chance, he's going to load up. He's going to spin kick you. He's going to land something devastating, try and put you down. He's going to swarm you when he has you hurt, like he did with Ramos, right? He landed the shot, and then he didn't go, let me spin kick him 6 more times. He's like, I'm going to trash him with shots in the pocket, just box him now after I hurt him. I thought all that showed me he's got good finishing instincts, and he can finish with the subs as well. Meanwhile, you got Douglas Silva on the other side. He's a good fighter, right? I don't want you to get me wrong at all. And his last fight was an insanely good performance by him, right? He goes out there, he faces early adversity. He's the older guy. He's a little bit smaller than his opponent as well. And Morozov was having success. He's getting off on shots. We all taped Morozov recently as well, so we know he's not a bad fighter. But what is his problem? What is his glaring flaw? It's durability, right? It's just like if you crack this guy, sometimes he just falls apart a little bit. He even wobbled badly in his fight against Paiva before, making it a clear decision over the course of the fight, using his superior wrestling. So we have seen Morozov have a lot of success, fell off, got hurt, got submitted there. That was a violent, beautiful comeback by Douglas Silva de Andrade. Classic type of performance from him. But he ate a lot of damage in that fight, and he was wearing some blood in that fight. And I do think that, that's not sustainable really over the long term. Maybe he has one more of those in his bag of tricks, but it's like at a certain point that bill is going to come due, especially in this division. This is a guy who's bounced around, right? He was at 35. He was at 45. Now he's back down to 35 here. I don't think that's going to be good for his durability, right? One of the analogs that I saw that for me is like a representation of how this fight might play out. It's a little different, right? But you got to bear with me. The Rob Font fight. Right, it was a little while ago, but Rob was basically getting off, doing a great job at distance, and he forced Douglas into a really bad shot when he hurt him, right? So he hurt Douglas with some body work with the jab, and Douglas didn't like it. He was panicked, and he took a shot. And when he shot, he got guillotined to oblivion by Rob Font, okay? Rob doesn't have bad jiu-jitsu by any means, but he's not an elite jiu-jitsu player, right? We could all be fair and say that. He's also not a guy who's finishing a lot of people in the UFC straight out. So that's a little bit of a problem for me. The guys he is finishing, most of them, if not all of them, a little bit past their sell-by date, right? I think that Douglas was actually one of the only wins that he got that was closer to an age contemporary at the time. And Rob was younger than him, but they're both in the mid-30s type category, right? I don't think that's going to fare well for Douglas as time goes on. I do think that they're trying to set up Said with a winnable fight here against a tough, incredible guy because he's got some wins under his belt already in Said. But I think that this is a showcase fight. I do think that Saeed is being set up for a finish here, as a matter of fact. And I've heard a lot of smart guys that I respect on the Saeed decision line. I've heard a lot of smart guys talking about the over this week. I think this is going to be another fight where Saeed's able to get his game going, where he's able to land big, impactful strikes. And I think he can finish with strikes. But like my man TC asked, this sounds like another sub play. It just might be, my brother, because the problem is I think that Douglas is the one who's reliable to grapple. And if he tries to grapple when he's hurt here, I think he's going to get submitted. I saw that Saeed has a nasty front headlock series, and I'm telling you, that ninja choke, it doesn't play games, right? That Rob Fine guillotine series, if you flat back yourself, if you do everything right, you maybe get out of it. You get put in a tight ninja choke from somebody who knows how to apply it, you're going to sleep or you're tapping, and it's that simple. Or you're breaking your neck, because your neck is in a really jacked up position as well, where somebody can start hipping into you. Think of the Jerome Rivera-Zalga Zumagulov fight. Did you see how many times Jerome Rivera tapped? Like 50, right? It's the worst choke. You don't want to be in it. So I think that this guy Saeed has shown me a lot over recent performances, not standing in front of him again. That's as far as I'm concerned. Pepe, do you feel differently? Do you feel the same? What do you think about this fight?
No, I echo your same sentiments. I played Saeed at minus 225 for a unit and a half, and I'm going to add a unit to the ITD line when all the lines are available. I'm just waiting for FanDuel to see best possible price. Right now, best possible price is plus 100. I'm hoping I can get something a little better, but yeah, you broke it down perfectly. You know, Douglas is 37, and, you know, he nearly got finished by Morozov. I don't think he can run on such thin margins against Saeed and get away with it. You know, if you're getting submitted by Rob Font, like, good luck getting through 15 minutes with Saeed Nurmagomedov in his prime. You know, those weight cuts get harder and harder for the bantamweights as they get older too. So the durability is definitely going to be in question. So yeah, that's where I'm at for this one.
Love it, brother. I'm glad that we line up here, and truly, I think that this is one where people might be disappointed, man. Because like, if you have watched these fights, you will say Douglas De Silva is a tough son of a gun, and he's going to be hard to put away. But if you watch Saeed fight, you're like, this guy's got great finishing instincts, and he might just be the guy that can put him away. Wizz, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think my eyes are going to be peeled onto the weigh-ins, specifically for the Andrade side. I don't think he's going to look good. I think we're going to see that death cut face on Douglas for the same reason that he's 36, and in this weight class, it's very unforgiving when you have a bad weight cut, because you depend on that good cardio and that good conditioning leading up into the fight. And against someone like Saeed Nurmagomedov, who just puts on a pace in the striking realm, it's very unforgiving. I do see a inside the distance Saeed Nurmagomedov finish here. It could be by knockout, could be by sub. I'm leaning towards the knockout here, but I'm ultimately going to be playing the Saeed Nurmagomedov inside the distance. That's for sure. I might have Saeed in a parlay as well. You know me, Liam. I have to have at least one. And on top of that, my brother's name is Saeed, so I can't go against my brother.
I love it. Our brother this week, Saeed Nurmagomedov. It doesn't matter if he's part of the family. He's part of our family now. And we're rooting for him this weekend to cash us all a bag. So glad that we have a unanimous panel. Hasn't happened on every fight tonight, but always a pleasure when it does happen. Does so happen that it's a big favorite here, but we've given you a couple different ways to potentially target this, get that plus money on your wager if that's what you're looking to do. So best of luck to everybody that decides to roll with us, and best of luck to everybody that decides to fade us too. With that being said, guys, we've got another talented Brazilian in the co-main event of the evening, except this one's a lot younger, a lot closer to that fighting prime. We've got Caio Barajo, the fighting nerd. This is a guy that I've really liked, straight up been cashing a lot of tickets on this gentleman on the Contender Series. I had him to win. I had him to win inside the distance. I had him to win by knockout in that fight against Murray. That was a really nice number, plus 400 they gave me on that knockout prop against the guy who's been finished via strikes before. And I believe he was a strong style guy. So I actually knew a little bit about his game. On the Murray side there, he was a little bit, a little bit too much too soon, I felt like, for him in that spot. And Kaio, he's a guy who's been willing to go up in weight, go down in weight. He has gone in the grappling realm with everybody's new favorite toy, Jailton Almeida, lost on an overtime, who was able to get out faster from the score, from a scoring perspective. So very competitive in the grappling with somebody like Jailton, who is a beast, right? And we've seen he's a smart guy. He could go out there, he could fight you to a decision. He could beat you. He could go out there, he could lock you up and put you in a submission. He trains with Damian Maia, very, very credible jiu-jitsu practitioners in and around his life, talks about being a fight nerd. I think he knows what the path of least resistance is when you're fighting a guy who's known for being a Muay Thai champion, right? I think he's probably going to try to grapple in this spot. But the one thing I want to, give some people pause with is like, I normally look for guys like this for a sub prop. It's not to say that I'm like ruling it out, but number one, the number's not, blowout, like so much different than the knockout, something like this. They're both priced very competitively with one another. And we did see he won his last fight by decision. His opponent in this fight is a pretty tough guy, right? He has shown that he can defend subs. He will try and work his way back to his feet when taken down. I do think this is probably the best grappler for MMA purposes that he's fought. I do think that RoboCop, he's a very good grappler. On paper, his grappling is extremely, strong, but he doesn't use it very often in his fights. He kind of has a little bit of that pace concern, so he doesn't want to exert himself, try and grapple for 6 minutes, and then be standing out there death gassed, just covering his head or something. So he really tries to be, a little bit more cautious with his use of energy. Even in that Armfield fight, he had a couple dominant positions, but he didn't want to overextend himself. I thought it cost him the fight. I thought that he wasn't really fighting to his full potential there. And I do think that was really within the margin, right? I did bet Armfield in that spot. I thought he was a great underdog play to be had there. And he really left it close, right? I thought he was going to win that fight inside the distance. I thought he was going to knock him out because he was the fresher guy. But he didn't end up being that much fresher, and he did take a lot of damage from RoboCop. So I think the real problem for me here is that Kaio Barajo, if he's able to get on top, should have multiple paths, right? I think he could use ground and pound. We've seen this guy, Petrosian, knocked out before regionally. I think that he could use his submission skills. We've seen that he gives his back a lot to stand up. You give your back to the wrong guy, somebody like Kaio Barajo, he might make you pay and very quickly. So I think that Base is right to point out we shouldn't be sleeping on Kaio's hands. We shouldn't, most importantly, be sleeping on his kicks. So we talk about some anthropomorphic advantages. He's going to be the shorter party in this fight, very marginally so, right? It says 5'10" on Tapology. Don't buy that. It's not true. So you go look at this guy stand next to his opponents. He normally is a little bit taller than his opponents even. So I find it a little bit shocking. I don't think that that's a correct measurement. But either way, we see his reach. He's going to have the advantage there by about 4 inches. And I think he's going to have the advantage in terms of leg length as well. He throws a lot of kicks. He can throw front kicks, teeps to the body, low kicks as well. So I think in terms of at range, I think this will be a competitive fight. I think this would be a minus 110 pick'em. But then you see the grappling advantage. And I think that the grappling advantage is significant. I think that could be a bailout if he's having trouble on the feet for Kaio Barajo. I think that he has an ability to shoot double leg takedowns, single leg takedowns. I think also he can go upper body and force his way into the clinch. Maybe press this guy Armfield into the cage a little bit. I do think Armfield's super physical. He's athletic. It's not going to be an easy win for Kaio, but I do think he might be the fresher guy after 15 minutes. I do think he might be the guy with more paths to finish. And I also, because the one thing I'll point out is Armfield's had a lot of power and a bunch of knockouts in MMA. But the truth is, I went back and looked at his kickboxing record. He's had a lot of kickboxing fights. I think he had like 24 knockouts and 70 plus wins. Like, it's not like this guy's just like a one punch and it's all over. It's just like he fought a bunch of MMA guys that were scared to fight him, in my opinion, that didn't want any time spent at distance. I don't think we're going to see that with Kaio. I think he's a much more poised fighter. And there's a reason the UFC wants him in a co-main event, I think, this early into his UFC career. And I think it's because he's ready to go out the gate. Wizz, how do you feel about this fight and this fighter?
So I'm pretty disappointed in this matchmaking here for a couple of reasons. I'm high on both of these guys, and I'm quite surprised how the UFC has put them together being both of them coming from the Contender Series. There's something about this Kaio guy, man. To me, he has this X factor in a sense where I think he's going to go long in the UFC. He's going to go and climb these rankings. And there's about this fight specifically, the matchup is at distance. I think he can keep up with Tresean, even though I rate Tresean really highly on the feet. We saw his get-up game against RoboCop too. It's not that bad. But the one thing with Kaio is Kaio's a much better wrestler, in my opinion, than RoboCop. And getting fights to the floor was the hard part that we saw RoboCop had to deal with in the beginning. When you have a much stronger wrestler, it's going to be a lot easier to get that fight to the mat. And I'm not saying that Kaio's jiu-jitsu is shit either. You pair that wrestling with the jiu-jitsu, it's going to be a nightmare for Tresean. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets subbed here. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight goes to decision. The one outcome I don't think is going to happen is a knockout in this fight. I think both guys have pretty decent chins. And, man, I'm really excited for this one. I'm actually on the Kaio side. I have 2 units at -150. So I'm definitely leaning there. And, yeah, like you said, don't let the 5'10" on Topology fool you. He's not 5'10".
I hear you, man. I think that you hit a lot of the major points there, and I agree. It factor is there. I do think for both these guys to an extent. Like, I think that Armin is like a guy that they could definitely market and build around. He's a fun guy, fun style. He's going to be in a lot of fun fights, but I don't know that his upside is necessarily as high for some of the reasons we mentioned, just in terms of a well-rounded game in this division. Pepe, do you agree with us? Do you think Kaio Barajo is the truth? Or are you looking to get on the money line underdog here in Armin Tresean?
I jumped on at Kaio at -135 and -140, pretty big, but I'm not gonna lie. I think there's a world where it's kind of sweaty, and I'm definitely gonna have my phone by me and allowing myself to live bet Armin if I'm seeing Kaio gas out, if he gives up the second round. But I do see him winning the first round at a pretty good clip when they're fresh, and he can implement his grappling and get the takedowns much easier. And, in a perfect world, he is able to get a submission or, beat him senseless to the point where, like, Armin can, barely stay alive. But, yeah, obviously the market agrees with me. That I think there's a reason why they opened him such a big favorite. They dropped him at -300 to open, and then, everyone was like, "Oh,
John Q. Public came in on Armin Tresean. Never forget that."
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not ruling out the possibility that it can get sweaty. Like, I don't love Kaio's striking defense. I think he's there to be hit. But when you have the guy with the grappling upside who can be competitive on the feet, who's younger, with more MMA experience, it's clear for me where I want to go. And I thought the swing back on the Tresean side was too much. So I wanted to hammer it for all I could to, send a message that it was too far. And like, I didn't want to miss the boat at a -135 and -140. So that's where I'm at.
That's a great spot. It's a great number. Got in on the latter half of your numbers there. I hit the -140. And to be honest with you, I just think we see this a lot, right? I talked about it as a theme, right? Where we see steam chasing in MMA. One person hits Armin Tresean. Maybe it was a great bet, +250. It's very wide, right? It's a soft opener, so they move the number. Now people are saying, oh, Armin Tresean, he's the dog of the card. You see that? He already moved that. He was +250, he's +200. So now it's that all the way down until we meet sharp resistance, right? And so in this case, it was my man Pepe. I do know personally several other sharp players that have won over time that are on that side. So I think that when you see a market move that's this aggressive, right, where it went from -130, well, first of all, it went from -300 to -135. That's aggressive underdog play. So that's why Pepe says, maybe it turns into a sweat here. There's sharp guys on the other side, but they were hitting the soft opener. right? And when I look at a soft opener getting hit on an underdog, tells me a lot less than let's see what it closes at. Because the truth is, $20,000, $50,000 bets aren't be coming in when they open these lines, right? It's just not possible. So what we know is that if this line drops back to minus 135 the day of the event, sharp guys with a lot of money are going the other way. But if it continues to run in this one direction like it has been, I think that we saw 135 was the point of sharp resistance. And now the public is seeing what the sharp saw and saying, why am I not getting involved on this guy? So if they're going to let John Q public get involved now, they're going to take the minus 250 that they're offered, right? That's what they're doing. And they're going to force you to parlay it with maybe a side that doesn't come through. That's the idea. So whenever you see this kind of movement, I do think it's very, very strong on Caio Barajo to move him from a minus 135 to a minus 240 and continuing to run. Yes, Pepe.
What I will say is, like, obviously I love to have all the CLV and the market be on my side and everything, but I don't love being in the parlay liability side of things either, because we've seen some questionable decisions when sports books have a big parlay liability, and it's the co-main event.
How about Armin Petrosyan last time getting that greasy win over RoboCop? It was right within the margin.
I had him too. I got super lucky. Plus 170, I think.
Me as well, brother. We'll take the ones that they give us.
3. I got him too.
Let's go. And now we're all saying thanks for the money, and we'll see you next time. We're all getting off the train with the money in hand. So let's hope that once again we've ended up on the right side here. But last time all of us were 3 for 3 on the Armin Petrosyan fight. We're looking to go 3 for 3 once again on the Armin Petrosyan fight this weekend. And I think we got a decent chance of doing it. I think we've got, as they say, a good soldier in Caio Barajo. I think a fighting nerd is going to bring it home for us. The nerds and virgins are getting one on Saturday night, boys. Let's fucking go. And with that said, guys, we've done it. We've gotten to the main event of the evening. It's the Battle of the Rafaels. What I'm going to need you to do is listen to my man Kane. Everyone smash that like button. Go ahead and get subscribed to the channel. How many people are coming at you at this hour of the evening to drop these knowledge bombs on your head top? Very few. So please support the show. Give a like, give a subscribe, and let me know who do you got in this main event in the comment section here as we get rolling. Boys, great fight. Fantastic fight. Talk about two guys that, different story, right? I was on the very correct side of the RDA fight last time. A lot of sharp guys I know were on Renato Moicano. Couldn't quite understand that. I thought that it was a clear play on the RDA side, right? I thought he was a better fighter, and I thought that Moicano, when he has a grappling advantage, he's going to sun you more often than not. Ask Amir Hadzovic. That was instant. He said to him, I wanted to keep fighting you. Then you shouldn't have submitted me. It's my favorite moment in UFC history. But either way, right, Renato Moicano, if he doesn't have the grappling advantage, sometimes it looks a lot more like the Fiziev fight, right, where he's standing too long and he gets hit with a big shot and he gets hurt. I think at 45, he had a big size advantage. He was really doing a good job measuring distance and keeping people off of him. At 155, it's been a lot harder for him, right? So RDA was able to get in close. He was able to rip him to the body. He was able to do a ton of damage upstairs. He was able to get on top of him and just drop ground and pound like it's no big deal. That was a great win for RDA. But I also thought that in round 5, he let him off the hook, which I hate. I can't stand when people do that. I had him by knockout there, and he did me no favors by letting him off the hook in round 5. And to be honest with you, I thought he was kind of getting hit cleanly a lot in round 5. And I was like, yo, what the hell is going on? Like, RDA, like, let's go back to shooting. Let's go back to the things that were working. What the hell is going on? So I did think it got a little bit greasy at the end of that fight. And I didn't like that because I thought Moicano was the one who should be falling apart in round 5. Like, evidently, number 1, he's in on short notice. Number 2, he's had literally his face rearranged. Like, he's just been beaten pillar to post. And yet he's the guy who might be fresher in round 5. Don't like that. And a lot of people are telling me about the long-term game here for RDA, like late sub props. Maybe, but I'm just saying I did see a little bit of, that's not so good. Here's the other thing, right? RDA was at 165 in his last fight, right? That's a weight class he's called for, right? Give me a title fight at 165. He's a big guy, right? Did a lot of good work at 170. Kind of ran into a bit of size barriers at the top of the division. But other than that, at 170, the dude's a stud. But who's his wins at 55 in the last few years? Then you start asking yourself some hard questions. Moicano's at 65. Okay. Felder, that guy was literally training for marathons. Listen to his interviews. He wasn't even planning on fighting. Wasn't even prepared for a fight. One judge gave him the cards. That was a complete joke. But it's like, I do think that win doesn't age tremendously well either. It's like if you're not taking out a guy who's training for marathons, I've got some questions about your upside, let's say, at 155. Just truthfully speaking, Paul Felder is a difficult guy to put away. I'm not trying to undersell that. He's one of the toughest individuals in the UFC. But again, if you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and you're a former champion and you're a guy who's actively in his prime searching for titles and you're not getting out the marathoner that retired from MMA already, I have some questions and some concerns there. So I think that if RDA gets on top in this fight, maybe we're having a different story. Maybe I look like a fool, but the truth is I think Fiziev is going to mess him up. And I did do some deep digging into this fight. I was blown away by Fiziev against Brad Riddell. I thought Brad was going to beat him. I certainly thought he was going to challenge. I thought he was a worthy underdog of my money. So like last time I said, I dropped the hammer, 7.5 units on RDA. Also bet a half unit on him to win by KO. I was very confident RDA was going to win that fight. A lot less confident. I was about 2 units deep on the Brad Riddell side. Did not turn out so good for me. Brad got absolutely owned in that fight. Straight up. I rewatched it today. Was not close at all. Brad landed a handful of good left hooks, a couple overhand rights. That's it. He got fucked up. He was getting soundly beaten on the feet. He was not as good a kickboxer as Fiziev at all. Fiziev had better counter combinations. He was the better kicker of the two. He was doing more damage when he landed. He was more insistent on throwing his shots. When he would come forward, Brad would back up. When Brad would come forward, he would stand his ground, throw big counter combinations, and fuck Brad up. So I think that all that does not bear well for RDA. RDA tends to be a pressure forward fighter. He's a very good pressure fighter, as a matter of fact. I tweeted this out earlier. Go to my Twitter. If you don't follow me already, at Liam Picks Fights, I tweeted out, they gave us Shavkat Rakhmonov by sub plus 400 when this video was in existence. And it's RDA taking down Neil Magny and just running him on the ground like an absolute jobber. So the idea of RDA not having an advantage on the ground is farcical. He is the better ground player here. He is a dangerous ground player. But I also saw signs that I really liked in the Brad Riddell fight from a grappling perspective. He's constantly digging underhooks. I'm talking about Fiziev. When he can't, if you get in too close, he will dig an overhook and he'll push you away at your inside shoulder and create space between the two of you. That can open up knees to the body. That also gives him a chance to just push away and separate, which I saw him do a number of times. The time he was taken down in that fight, it was actually hysterical, right? He goes for a takedown, Brad Riddell. He's very low to the ground. He's a big, stocky guy. He's got big muscles. He tried to run him off his feet, and he did a good job. But then Fiziev, went to a whizzer, went to a quad pod, and Brad tried to, take him over. He tried to, punch him a few times. He didn't know what to do. His positioning was so solid, and his base was so solid, he couldn't knock him over. He just let him go. It just was like, I literally don't know what to do with you from here. I'm just going to move back, and we'll kickbox again. And then he went back to getting messed up on the feet. I think that when I've seen Fiziev threatened by people trying to take him down in practice, in training room videos, he's excellent. He's got very good hips. He's got a 95% takedown rate, takedown defense rate, in the UFC. That's going to be challenged here, right? I wouldn't be surprised if RDA took him down. But I think he's going to make RDA work for every takedown. I think he's going to try and punish him with strikes for every takedown he attempts. And I think that if RDA is the one getting backed up in this fight, he's going to be too predictable. He's going to be getting hit with a lot of clean shots. And I liked how Fiziev manages a fight. He moves you around. He decides where you're going to be in the octagon, and then he punishes you for it. And I think it's going to be a tough fight for RDA. I think this is a card being built around Rafael Fiziev. I think that RDA's time at the top of 155, it has long since passed. But I do think that he is a great, incredible challenge for anybody who's looking to ascend into the top ranks of the division. So more power to him. He's never said no to a hard fight. He's one of my favorite fighters in UFC history, but unfortunately, I think he's going down, and I think he's probably going down inside the distance. Inside the distance, fights not to go. They've been just a money pit so far this year. That's the truth. I might go back again, boys. I might be back there again once this weekend's props are fully out. I've seen some fight doesn't go the distance at plus money. I've seen some unders at plus 125, plus 130. you know, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little tempted on those numbers. I think both these guys have a path to a finish. I think it's much more clear for Fiziev. Wizz, how do you feel?
Now, I can't speak too much on the RDA side because obviously fellow teammate, so I can't give away too much there. I
love it. This is why we bring our man Wizz in. He's actually in the trenches, you know, real fight experience. So truly appreciate your insights.
On the Fiziev side, I do like the speed advantage there. I think he does have the speed advantage on the feet. The one thing I'm going to be looking out for is the way how spread out his feet are in this fight, because that's what's going to help RDA get those takedowns. Man, if he's training this takedown defense and if he continues to fight the same way, I don't know if it's not going to be easy for RDA to get these takedowns, but there definitely are chances, just from the tape that I've been watching. And to me, I think the line's a little bit wide. I don't know if the line is justifiable in my opinion. So like if I'm saying this, that means ultimately it's dog or pass for me. But it's so hard for me to pick between these two guys because I think they both have paths to victory here equally. I think Fiziev can finish inside the distance with his striking. I think Fiziev can win a decision. I think RDA can take him down and submit him or ground and pound him. Or I think he can win a decision as well. So it's like at this point, if I do see equal outcomes for both sides, and there's no like clear lean to me, I'm going to be looking towards the round props. And I'm still waiting on some alternate round props to come out. I wonder what the over 2.5 or the under 4.5 is at the moment. My book doesn't have them open up yet. But
under 4.5 is like plus 135, plus 130, plus 125, plus 120, that range. I don't know about the other one yet.
I like that under 4.5. Multiple reasons. I mean, the under 4.5 makes sense to where Fiziev is just levels ahead of RDA in the striking realm, and he just cracks him as long as it's within those first 4.5 rounds. And I could definitely see that happening, as I was mentioning earlier. And then if RDA is going to be a sub, it's going to be anywhere in the third or the fourth, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be early on. So I do probably foresee the first 2 rounds going to Fiziev. But yeah, from this analysis itself, you could probably see how questioned I am with just picking a side here. So I'm ultimately going to pass. I think this fight is for entertainment. And I've mentioned on the same show last week and the week before, I usually don't tend to bet main events all that often unless I really like a side, because they're usually lined so accurately that it's just very tough to get on either side. So yeah, that's my analysis here.
I can't push back on that, man. I think that when I first started breaking this down, you know, to be honest with you guys, initial booking, I had a very big position on Fiziev at minus 154 because the way, like my style of betting is kind of like Pepe in the sense that if I see a line that I know is going to move, I get on it so I can give myself that equity when the line moves. I dropped everything I was doing. I saw them open minus 130 Rafael Fiziev. I literally stopped what I was doing, got in the car, drove to Jersey. At the time, betting I don't think had been fully fleshed out in New York. Whatever it was, I couldn't get access to the line. I could get it in Jersey. I got out. I drove my ass to Jersey, and I tried to bet Fiziev for the max. And by the time I got there, it moved from minus 130 to minus 154. Still put it in. Bet gets canceled. And unfortunately, in that instance, the bookmaker now has all the information that we've given them, which is what sides we want to be on. So now you want to be on Fiziev, no problem. Unattractive money line price. You want to be on RDA, much more attractive money line price. Hence why they're going to try and get that action more evenly distributed in this booking, whereas last time they probably had a massive liability towards the Fiziev side and were forced to move the number subsequent to the action to the minus 210, minus 220, minus 250 range, as a matter of fact, when the last fight was pulled. So I think that that's all very interesting, and I'm curious to hear how my man Pepe shakes out. Are you with us in the sense that you think this fight's going to be violent and might go under? Do you think, contrary, it might go to a decision? What do you feel like on this fight?
Personally, I have Fiziev around like minus 240, minus 250. So there's not really any meat on the bone to play the money line, even though I think it's going to hit at a pretty high clip. But I actually do agree with you. I hit the under 4.5 at plus 125, and now I see there's better lines available. So I jumped the gun and I bet it on a bet I can't cash out of, but I'm still happy with the plus 125 under 4.5. A lot of people are talking about, they want to fade Fiziev, and he's shown questionable cardio, and like, I'm just not that guy. Like, I want to have my money on this kind of guy. I think his striking is next level. I bet him against Brad Riddell at evens and was kicking myself that I didn't bet enough. You know what I mean? So he's not the kind of guy I want to try to fade. Like, this is the kind of fighter that I want to bet on. He's 8 years younger. His striking is elite, like some of the best Muay Thai in the division.
I'll one up you and say some of the best Muay Thai in the UFC. That's
right.
A fact.
Yeah, and he's got solid takedown defense. Most of those Tiger Muay Thai guys have good, solid takedown defense. I saw he's been training with
Piotr Jan.
Right. I saw he's been training with Mavzar too. So if he can keep it on the feet, I think he should be able to finish within the first couple rounds, and that's what I'm anticipating. So I don't think I'm going to get there from a money line perspective. I had a bet on him in the previous booking, like you had mentioned. I don't remember the line, but I had multiple units at a much better number. So I don't really care enough to, eat a bunch of chalk. So I'm kind of just going to roll with my gut feeling of him getting the early finish, but also buy a little equity on RDA getting a potential submission in, the mid rounds, or, so at getting a plus number at under 4.5 with these two violent fuckers is something that I'm going to be endorsing.
I love it, man. I'm so glad to hear you say that too, because it's a number I've had my eye on all week. Sick of losing money on these fights not to go the distance in main events, but I do think if any fight was to break the curse and get us that regression that we're hoping for, I think this could certainly be the one. Both guys path to finish. Both guys decent amount of power in their hands. RDA probably got that additional submission equity, but Fiziev is the more dangerous striker, a lot more put together on the feet. So I think for all those reasons, unders look sound here. I prefer the Fiziev side personally, but there's reasons to like both guys. I just think that, Fiziev is probably going to be in a title fight in the next 2 years. It's like he's probably going to be in the top 5 in the division. And I think RDA is probably going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame sooner rather than later. You know what I mean? It's just different guys, different stage of their career. But I have to say thank you once again to RDA, who has never said no to a challenge. It's like you called us, sign a fight with this guy. He's just saying yes. So many guys in the UFC, they're like, who was it? What date? They want to know every detail because this is a hard, crazy business. RDA, you just tell him what date, and he's there. He doesn't give a shit who the guy is. And many of them, more often, he's beaten. I think he's going to meet his match on Saturday night, but I'm eagerly anticipating finding out. So, guys, we've done it in just under 2 hours of your time. We've broken down every single fight on the card. We tried to give you sharp angles, give you a bunch of different ways to play the fight. So whether you ride with us, you ride against us, hope that you've been put in a position to succeed, and you guys have all the information to go out there and stack checks, stack some winners, get some money this weekend, and always put ourselves in a position to succeed. Never met a bookmaker with a part-time job, so all of us good guys got to stick together. Wizz, can you please tell the people where they can find you? And thank you so much for your time, my brother. It's always a pleasure speaking about these fights.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to share the mic with both of you legends. As always, it's at WizzBets on Twitter. I also just made my YouTube channel, so it's also at WizzBets. I have my first video uploaded, and it's an interview with the notorious Askar Mozarov, or Artur Sadkov, however you might know him. So that's all uploaded, and I'm posting plays every day, bets on MLB, MMA, soon NBA and NFL once it's all up. We're betting on everything here, so give me a follow, give me a subscribe on YouTube, and I appreciate it, guys.
I already dubbed him the king of the nerfy, but we also have the king of the interview, the literal most desired man in all of MMA Everybody's asking the questions about Askar Mozarov, but only my man Wizz knows the goddamn answer. So you better go find him on YouTube. You better go find him on Twitter, and you better start hitting those nerfies. Don't just leave all the money for us. Take some yourself. I'm begging you. Please go out there and hit Wizz's nerfies and line your pockets accordingly. Pepe, my brother, please let the people know where they can find you. And thank you once again for coming on, blessing us with your time and your knowledge, my friend.
Hell yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Follow me at Pepe_Silvia716. And Wizz, I'm looking forward to taking a couple hits off the blunt and watching that Mozarov YouTube interview, man. That's going to be a fucking trip. That's awesome. Definitely subbing to Wizz Bets on YouTube. And he's always dropping sharp baseball plays that I've been tallying in silence. Real G's move in silence like lasagna. But yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Always a great time. And thanks for helping me become sharper.
Absolutely, brother. We know that there's a few things that never change. That is, the good guys stick together. Readers are leaders. Remember that. It's critical advice that I can give you. Read more, lead more. Your network is your net worth. So learn more and earn more. That's what I plan on doing every week, coming back to you guys with a brand new set of plays, with a brand new set of research, with a brand new slate of intentions, and always trying to put money in your pocket. That's my ultimate goal. And also to keep you guys entertained, to give you guys a good, informative show where you learn something and you come away in a better position to make money. So I feel good about this weekend's card. I promised you one thing before we get out of here, and that is the submission round robin, guys. I have it here. I'm logging into my FanDuel account. The most they would let me put on this is $16.50, probably because I have been crushing them on some of these, but this is what I rolled with this week. I went with two favorites and an underdog to win by submission. The plays are as follows. I took Saidyokub Kakhramonov to win by sub at plus 750. I took Cynthia Calvillo to win by sub at plus 460. And I took Said Nurmagomedov to win by sub at plus 340. The total odds, I do not know because it ends up betting them as several different wagers. But the bottom line is I bet $49.50. That's $16.50 per wager. If they all win, it's going to return $18.09 and some change. So very excited. Let's see if we can get it done. Last week, we went with the stupid chalk play of Andre Muniz, and he cost us. So we're not making the same mistake. We're taking 3 long shots, but 3 of them that I really like, and I think they're supported by the data. So I wish you guys all the best of luck. Whether you ride with me on the plays, whether you fade them, I truly wish you all the same luck and support. Come back next week. We're going to have all the same fun again, breaking down an even better slate of fights. So thank you all for your time and attention. Until next time, we'll see you.